welcome to yet another very interesting episode of Talking Relationship. I'm your host, Steph Isuma. So this particular episode is going to be directed at the women, the wives, the girlfriends. Many women say that they find it very hard to make their relationships work, no matter how much they try. Some others say that they had no idea when the love in their marriages began to dwindle. But in reality, we all know what we need to do to make our relationships work, but we procrastinate. We just assume that the effort isn't worth the hassle. Or some of us are just too egotistic to bend over. If you need to make your relationship work, you need to communicate, make efforts. It's simple. Okay, so you fell in love with a sweet, caring, loving, and thoughtful man. But what you have now is the exact opposite. And then you begin to question, does this man still love me? Because what he is showing right now is definitely not love. Not to worry, you can still reclaim that sweet, loving, and thoughtful man if given the right intervention. It's simple. 1. Be playful. It helps to cement the bond. Playfulness is one thing that makes every relationship work out. I mean, just because you're past your childhood doesn't mean you should act grown up all the time. Play with him, tease him, flirt with him. You can even talk sexy once in a while. I mean, why do we think that we can stop doing the things we did earlier in our relationship and expect the relationship to still be the same? 2. Appreciate him. Appreciate him for his masculine qualities and those things you know he likes about himself. Things he is proud of. Praise him for any achievement, no matter how little. He will try and work harder just to win your praise all the time. And he'll fall in love all over because you keep making him feel like a hero. 3. Instead of complaining, whining, nagging, and raising your voice, try and do something different. Talk to him softly, in a clear, respectful, and loving language. You can even plan what you want to say to him and how you want to say it. You'll be surprised how this works. You end up getting his attention, his cooperation, and his respect. 4. Look for ways that he makes you happy and tell him regularly. You can tell him things like, "Sweetheart, I am so happy that you solve problems for me all the time." Or, "You make me feel wonderful when you tell me you love me." Or, "I feel happy that you help with the kids. They love it." Letting him know that you're happy makes him feel successful. He'll try and look for more ways to even make you happier. If you're happy, your man feels successful. If you're not, he feels like a failure. And men hate to fail. Don't constantly remind him of his past failures. I mean, don't blame him for his past mistakes. It'll only tear him apart, and your relationship will grow weaker by the day. Men are very sensitive. Don't try to use his past mistakes to get him to accept defeat or make him listen to you. 6. Listen to what he says. Don't just jump into conclusions without listening to his own point of view. That will only raise tempers and you will keep having misunderstandings. 7. Men can't read minds. As convinced as we women are that men should be able to read women's mind, they really can't. So if something is going on in your mind, talk to him. Tell him about it. Don't just sit there thinking, oh, he'll eventually figure it out, because he won't. 8. Not all men are romantic. Not all men understand romance and romantic gestures. You know, as a woman, sometimes you just want to be pampered. You just want to be treated like a lady. You want someone to hold your hand, touch your hair, or even serve you breakfast in bed. But not all men do that. Instead of giving up on him, you can show him the way. Teach him how to be romantic. you'll be surprised he could just become the romantic man that you've always imagined. 9. Get kinky. By kinky, I mean turning on your inner sexiness. A relationship needs to evolve, and so does sexual intimacy. If you think that your sexual life is becoming predictable and very boring, you can try something new. Spice it up in the bedroom. Talking dirty is a great way to start. 10. Be his shoulder to lean on. You know, as macho as a man may seem, deep inside he is almost always like a child who needs a woman's love and attention to give him emotional strength. In conclusion, just remain who you are. Remain the woman that he met and fell in love with. By doing one of or most of these things I've mentioned now, you constantly remind him of why he met and fell in love with you in the first place. You can create the relationship that you've always wanted. And that's where I draw the curtain on today's episode of Talking Relationships. As always, if you have any contributions or comments, leave it in the comment section below, or you can just go to our Facebook page at Talking Relationships. We're on Instagram at Talking Relationships. We're also on Twitter at Talking Relationships. I'm still your regular host, Steph Isuma. Thanks for watching. Welcome to yet another very interesting episode of Talking Relationship. I'm your host, Steph Isuma. So the last episode was directed at the women. This episode is directed at the men, the boyfriends, the husbands. So as a man, you feel you're doing everything right, but your woman still wants more. And then you start asking yourself questions like, why are women so complicated? Why are they so hard to read? They say they want something, you give them that, and then they decide they want something else. And when you eventually give that to them, they still end up unsatisfied. You know, the truth of the matter is, women are a bit complicated, but they're only just asking for simple things. As a guy, if you think you're doing everything right, but you still find that your woman feels insecure, then maybe you are doing one or most of the things that I'm going to mention now. 1. You are still talking with your ex. Let's just say you're still best friends with your ex. And let's not forget that you've had sex a couple of times in the past with your ex. The fact that you've had sexual chemistry and history with them is enough reason to make your woman feel very insecure. I mean, the only woman that wouldn't feel that way is a woman who doesn't truly care about you. But then if you decide that you're just going to continue talking to your ex, then don't get jealous when she starts doing the same thing. Well, I bet you don't want that. 2. You don't compliment her on her new look or new hairdo. If she has made effort to look good and you don't notice it, it'll be a big blow to her self-esteem. I mean, you may say things like, oh well, men don't notice these things, but that's a lame excuse. Pay attention to your woman. If she's made extra effort to look good and look sexy for you, then you should notice it and compliment her. 3. You take forever to reply her message. She's not asking you to reply 5 seconds after she sends you a text message. Maybe when you're out with your friends or you're working late, you can just send her a text. If you really value her, you don't keep her waiting. A simple reply is enough for her to know that you're thinking about her, even when you're having fun and hanging out with the guys. I mean, a woman feels very insecure if her man doesn't bother to reply. However, if she's the type of woman who sends you text messages every 5 minutes, even when she knows that you're very, very busy, well, that's a different story. 4. When you neglect her outside. Okay, let's say you both are having lunch in a restaurant and then your friends just suddenly pop up. You completely forget she's even there. So many of you guys are guilty of this. She becomes grumpy and you start to ask, what is my offense? Is it such a big deal? Well, for women, yes, it is a big deal. Or let's say you invite her to a friend's party and she's so excited to go to the party with you, and when she gets there, you're so caught up meeting up with your friends that you forget that she's been sitting in one corner. I'm not saying you guys have to be, walking side by side like Siamese twins, no. But you don't have to neglect her. That makes her feel isolated, unwanted, insecure. That's just rude. 5. When you keep secrets from her. Women are very intuitive. I'm sure you know that. They can tell when you're keeping secrets. When you do that very often, you make her feel like you're just excluding her from your life. Maybe it's fine if you're actually keeping those secrets to protect her. But if not, there's no telling what she'll start making up in her head. And that's not good. That's when insecurity creeps in. 6. When you cheat on her. Nothing makes a woman feel more insecure than you cheating on her. It will ruin her self-esteem for a long time to come. Don't hate your woman because she's insecure. Because you contributed to the reason why she is that way. If she has agreed to stay with you, even after you got hurt, then please, do not make the same mistake again. Don't go back to it. It is important that she knows that you're willing to change. In conclusion, don't blame your woman for being insecure if you've been doing one or most of the things I have mentioned now. If you're willing to change like you say, please do that. If there are insecurities in your relationship still, just be sure you're not contributing to it. And that ends today's episode of Talking Relationships. Like I always say, if you have any contributions whatsoever, leave it in the comment box below, or you can just go to our Facebook page at Talking Relationships. We're on Instagram at Talking Relationships. We're also on Twitter at Talking Relationships. I'm still your regular host, Steph Isuma. Thanks for watching.